And we welcome you back to the Charleston RiverDogs Insider Podcast. Max Tanza here, joined alongside the skipper of the RiverDogs, Danny Mendick. Danny, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, let's sum things up first with the RiverDogs this year. This is your first opportunity in a managing role. I mean, a really good opportunity now to reflect on what's been an amazing year for your ball club. How would you sum it up so far?
Yeah, it's been awesome. It's been a great learning experience. It's been fun. It's been a great time. It's been awesome.
Yeah, and has it been what you expected? Were there any surprises for you or anything that was not against your expectations?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been some surprises. There's things that, you know differently when you play, and then you see it on the other side of the game, and you're caught off guard a little bit. I think the biggest thing that I get nervous about every single day is the lineup cards when I have to bring them out to the umpires to make sure that all the names are on the lineup card, and, never thought about that in my life before. But now it's like, every single day I look over it, maybe 50 times a day just to make sure that one name isn't on there, and then you try to bring him in the game, and now you can't bring him in the game because he's not on the lineup card. So that, I've had some sleepless nights over that.
Yeah, and I'm sure, too, at this level, what a lot of people now realize is certain guys have different schedules and so forth. Certain guys are playing a certain amount of times a week. So it's probably like a math problem trying to figure out everything and organize everything from a 6-day stretch. What is that like for people who might not be as familiar with it?
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, you're mostly concerned about the health of these guys, but you also want them to make sure that they get enough opportunity. Things are mapped out, and I have the luxury from the pitching side where it's kind of like, these guys are going to throw, and once we get past this, now it's, up to you. And so that's a good thing. It's a lot different.
Yeah, and you were playing in the big leagues, just about 2 years ago as well, which I feel like isn't normally the case with a lot of these minor league managers. I mean, is that something that you use to your advantage and so forth? I'm sure for a lot of these young guys who might have been watching games you were playing in a couple years ago, how have you used that to connect with the guys?
Yeah, my experience is my experience for sure, but it definitely helps. I can help these guys in ways that some people can't. But I've enjoyed having the ability to see these guys and be able to talk about certain things, hopefully lessen the time that they have in their careers to make mistakes. You know what I mean? Help them learn before they do make the mistakes of what I've noticed and done. So, I try not to talk too much about my career because, I had fun, and it's about these guys now.
Absolutely.
But, it definitely helps in decision making and how I talk to them.
For sure, and you were in the complex league coaching last year as well with a lot of this 2025 draft class that makes up your roster right now. How important was that to kind of build a rapport with them, work with them a lot, and now all of a sudden get this assignment with them in their first full season assignment?
Yeah, I think it definitely helps them too. I mean, they're going to be a little more comfortable with me. They know, with my style and how I am as a human being, which probably really helped them when they first got here. Kind of settle the nerves and ease your way into it. You look at the maturity levels of all these guys compared to when that first series was.
Yeah.
First night we lost 15-0 or whatever it was, and then we got swept by Myrtle Beach. Had a lot of young guys that were coming in kind of nervous and whatnot, and now you look at all these guys and pressure, doesn't really faze them. It's great.
And that's been exemplified literally all year long. 13 walk-offs, these comeback victories. You guys have erased multiple deficits, 3 or more in the 9th inning. How have you built that character into this ball club? I'm sure a lot of it is developing, but also maybe some of their personalities as well. But how have you guys been able to build that gritty, intense atmosphere?
Yeah, I think it's just that kind of goes back to my style of play when I played. It was always never quit, all that stuff. And I just keep every single day kind of trying to reinforce that with these guys. Making sure that they know that we're never out of a ball game, no matter what the score is. We can always come back and win. But even just on the side of, it's important to have that as a player. You have to have that mentality of, I'm never going to give my at bat away. I'm always going to field the ground ball. I'm never going to, in my mind, I'm just not going to do that, because what's the point? The cost of that is then you play bad, and nobody wants to do that. But you have to continue to reinforce in your mind, because it's easy to wander and be like, no, I want to, we're down 7-4. This isn't as important. Well, no, everything is important.
For sure, and I think too, Another little element of that is you guys clinched in the first half. And so the fact that you guys are still pushing late in ball games, even though from a win-loss perspective, these games don't matter as much from a playoff picture, still trying to develop these guys to win every single night. And
Absolutely.
it seems like that's been the big mantra for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't take a night off. There's no, if you want to turn the switch off and then turn it back on for the playoffs, that's never going to happen. You know, we're lucky enough that we got to clinch in the first half. But you get to the big leagues, there's no clinching in the first half. You got to clinch, you know, and then you just keep rolling and riding. So, you know, and I've told these guys, all this, everything that goes on, it goes on the back of your baseball card. So you take pride in that. You want, you know, when somebody looks at your baseball card and they're looking at your numbers, you got to remember if you ever taking that bat off, then or take a pitch off or whatever, that's going to reflect on it.
Yeah, and as you climb up the ladder, it gets more difficult to win, and you're obviously someone who's experienced that. As you go through the levels, what are the little things? Is it pitchers just being able to hit their spots more, better command on secondary stuff? What are those little things that you're trying to help them prepare for as they rise up the levels?
Yeah, I mean, pitching obviously just continues to get better. Right now, it's mostly about, you know, guys are trying to develop their pitches and figure out what they can throw. But you get AA, AAA, they're throwing 3 to 4 pitches that they can throw in the zone, you know? So it's not like, you know, sometimes down here where guy can't throw a slider in the zone, you can kind of eliminate that and just sit on his other fastball changeup or whatever it is. But in the big leagues, it's the same way. You know, they throw every single pitch where they want it. And you might get 1 pitch to hit or 2 pitches to hit a night if you're lucky. And you have to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
So they got to, you know, they're starting to learn that.
And you guys have had a lot of guys graduate going up to high Bowling Green, or even a guy like Caden Bodine up to AA Montgomery. When a guy gets promoted, what is your message to them, you know, walking into the locker room, or maybe it's a phone call, I'm not sure, telling them they're going up to Bowling Green? Do you share any advice or anything just to give them a little pump up before they go up there?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, when Bodine got promoted, it was he very much deserving. I mean, he's played phenomenal. But, yeah, I mean, those guys, you hope that what you've taught them and done on the field the entire year has helped him, you know. And I've told him, you know, my phone's always open. Call me if you ever need anything, if you ever want advice about something. But, you know, I think the biggest thing is understanding that the game's going to speed up at the next level. It always will. It continues. Every single time you jump a level, it's going to speed up. And finding a way to slow it down.
Yeah, what's the biggest gap? Is it AAA to the big leagues? Is it single A to high A? Is there a big gap between all of them, or is it pretty consistent?
You know what? It used to be a little different. It used to be single A to AA was really big. To be honest with you now, I think it's AA to AAA and then AAA to the big leagues. AAA to the big leagues is probably the biggest.
Yeah.
I mean, the big leagues is the best of the best. I mean, the arms up there, you know, you don't see guys, you watch the games now, you don't see guys throwing under 95.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like you gotta, and they can command 4 pitches.
Yeah, and I was talking to Higgy a little bit about this. When you were in the big leagues, right, 2019, 2020, 2021, that was kind of right at the prime of pitch data, all the Edgertronic cameras, all the data science. Pitching exploded, right? So as a hitter, what was it like kind of just being ambushed by that with all these guys throwing 96, 97, 98 consistently?
Yeah, I mean, that was that year was the ride fastball, right? Then you had everyone was trying to change their swing basically to hit a 97 mile an hour fastball that had 21 or 22 inches of vert. And it was a really hard pitch to hit. I mean, you know, like you had to almost think about hitting above the ball because where you thought it was going to be, it stayed on a plane that it wasn't. And, you know, going through that, it was like, now you sit down here and you see a guy that throws 20 inches of vert or whatever it is, and you're like, okay, I know the feeling, I know the thought process of what I have to do to try to hit that, because if you take a normal swing, you're going to miss it.
Yeah.
And that's the perk of the data that we have now.
I'm sure not just hard to square up, but lay off of too if it's half a baseball up or something like that. I've never stood in and seen 95 with Kerry, right? So how it's always been described to me is it just kind of looks like it's rising on you and so forth. What is that like usually when you're stepping into the box? Like, what do you see visually, and how do you kind of combat that?
You know, you have to, like, it becomes an adjustment. You know the guy beforehand, and you're trying to figure out how to attack him, and then the plan is almost sometimes like you have to, the thought process would be like I have to swing down or I have to swing above the ball, But then, you also have to worry about a couple other pitches. You might throw a slider, you might do this or whatnot. So I think what we do a good job down here too now is that I didn't do when I was in young baseball, but is being able to like come up with a plan beforehand and trusting it and doing it. Sometimes when I was younger, it was like I'm just going out here and I'm hitting. I didn't have that, but now it's like these young guys have a plan and they know what they want to do. So they, if a guy has ride, if you see it up, I'm not swinging. I got to see it down, and then now I go. Does that make sense?
No, totally. You were a 22nd round draft pick, so you mentioned it, kind of that scrappy characteristic that really helped you flourish as you went through baseball and the minor leagues. Can you just walk us through your journey and so forth and getting to where you were at?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have any offers out of high school, went to a junior college, got lucky. Our kid, they needed a shortstop at UMass Lowell, and their coach ended up coming to my area and asked me to go there. Played really well and had fun, but I got an opportunity. Just got drafted in the 22nd round. Looked like a flyer on me, and found myself in the big leagues in 2019.
Yeah,
just straight through perseverance and never quitting.
Yeah, and as a manager, I'm sure that's really important for some of the guys, too, who might be later draft picks or undrafted free agents and so forth. Do you ever talk to any of those guys about that or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the message is always going to be the same, but it's impossible to beat a guy that never quits. Like, it's a nightmare for people. You try to beat a guy that never quits, and you're just going to get frustrated. Like, that's what I was when I played, and I try to tell these guys, I'm never going to quit. It's just not going to happen. So if you continue to have that mindset, all of a sudden you find yourself in the big leagues. It's pretty simple, and you might not have the talent. Talent might not always be there. Certain guys have a lot of talent, certain guys don't. But if you never quit, man, that's not fun for anybody else.
Yeah, and what was that moment like when you got the call, put on the big league White Sox uniform for the first time?
Yeah, that was surreal. Still to this day was kind of felt like a blackout. Like it was.
Yeah.
I went up to Cleveland. I got called up after the AAA season. I was in September call-up, and then when they still had those.
Yeah.
And then got to Cleveland, and you're looking around at the ballpark, and there's 3 stories, and you're like, oh my gosh. And then I struck out my first at bat. Brad Hand called my dad. It was a pinch hit at bat. Called my dad after, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I mean, I got my doors blown off. I had no chance. Next day, got to start. Struck out my first at bat, and then got a bunt hit my second at bat, and that was my first hit. And then everything just goes slow down, and then next at bat, base hit up the middle, and everything was history from there. Yeah.
What are the little things about playing in a big league ballpark that people might not think about? Like I always have heard with the triple deckers, like you mentioned, like reading a pop-up or a fly ball from the outfield might be different. The wind kind of drips around differently in those bigger buildings. And
yeah, you necessarily don't feel the wind the way you feel the wind here. The fans sometimes fans feel like they're kind of like right on you here. There's a little more space, but it's loud. It's really loud and it's fun, and it's just it's an atmosphere and a feeling that you feel like you're on stage,
Yeah.
and it's awesome. It's something you can't ever really describe or replace.
Yeah, and then something too that we talked about, I think it was right after Creamerosa's no-hitter. You were actually a part of a couple no-hitters, Dylan Cease and Lucas Giolito, right? Yeah. Just walk us through, what is it like playing defense in a no-hitter? Because people forget about that too. It's a lot of pressure on you guys to make sure you're being perfect out there.
That's fun. I mean, it's nerve-wracking though. When you get to the end, you don't want to say anything to the pitcher either. So you're trying to avoid the guy in the dugout, and he knows it too. So like 7th inning, 8th inning, 9th inning, you're really not talking. Nobody's really talking. You're trying to make sure that you're prepared for everything that happens. I remember I was playing second base with Lucas, and I think the Pirates, they had this righty coming up, but I knew he was going to hit the ball the other way, and he ended up hitting a line drive to Adam Engel in right field, and he made a great play to seal the deal. But you're standing there and you're like giddy, like you have to make yourself want it, because if you're like, no, I'm scared, I don't know, I want the ground ball, I want to finish the game for him.
Yeah, and was that your first time being a part of no-hitter in the big leagues? Were you a part of any in the minor leagues or anything?
I actually wasn't a part of any in the minor leagues. That was the first time, and I happened to be playing, and it was pretty fun experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, lastly, too, you finished your big league career with the New York Mets. You're from Rochester, New York. I know you grew up a Yankees fan, but I'm sure it's pretty cool. I'm sure you grew up with Mets fans, maybe had family members that were Mets fans. What did that mean to you?
It was awesome. I mean, New York Mets are a great organization, and being able to play for that team, going to that field and, you know, watching it on TV as a kid and all that stuff was super surreal, and having my family be able to come out and be able to watch me play there. You know, growing up as a kid, yes, I was a Yankees fan, but you always watch Yankees Mets, Subway Series, whatnot, and, you know, and end up playing in that stadium for that team was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and what's it just like being in New York, one of the biggest sports markets in the world, maybe number one?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, just a great experience.
Absolutely. Well, once again, Danny Mendick. Danny, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.